Today is Sunday, the 14th of June, and this is my weekly review. And the grade that I'm giving myself for this week is a B plus, and the reasons for that is I'll get into it. But I didn't take any trades, so weekly P&L is 0 and weekly R is 0. So my general thoughts and feelings about the week, I'm pretty satisfied with how it's gone. Being able to share my thoughts out loud in terms of my daily market observations, and then just the YouTube channel that I've started, creating videos in that way it feels like it's something that will really benefit my trading overall, in terms of the way that I'm now engaging with the market on a daily basis and really trying to understand what's going on and the correlations between the moves and what my breadth indicators are showing me. And over time, I really feel like that's going to be something that will help piece things together a lot better. And in turn, just having something to focus on in that way will really help support my learning process. And so far, I'm finding it quite enjoyable. I feel like it's a fun and creative way to continue my learning, and then at the same time reinforce what I'm learning by speaking about it and going over my notes and just thinking about things in different ways. So overall, I feel like it was a good solid week. Another week where I feel like I improved in some way, which is always my minimum goal. And the fact that I can say that I've definitely improved in one way means that I'm moving closer towards my goals. So that's the main thing. And I definitely felt a lot calmer coming into this week, and I did decide at the end of the prior week to stop drinking coffee, because I felt like it was just potentially making me a little bit too. I guess I want to say I don't want to say anxious, but it was definitely making me feel like there was just this sense of urgency to just get things done. And really, if I'm being honest with myself, I don't feel like that was benefiting my trading and my thinking and just my day to day. So I've decided to cut that out, which is a little bit of a bittersweet thing, because I really enjoy a cup of coffee. But I'm just going to see how that goes and see if I notice any difference. So how did I improve my trading business this week? I just in quick bullet points, I updated my AI prompts for research. So basically the AI prompts that I use for my earnings reports analysis and catalyst analysis, just to streamline my process. And this is definitely something where it's a way in which it can really benefit the pre-market process. It really cuts down a lot of time, but it's something that you can use to co-create in a really positive way. And I've found the more tweaks you make and the more refinement you make with the prompts, you can really just use it to assist you in a really beneficial way. So that's something that I've done this week. Started a YouTube channel, obviously. Collected more EP data, so just working on my understanding of EPs and just keeping everything fresh. Improved my psychology through reading. The book that I'm currently reading at the minute is Mark Douglas's book, Trading in the Zone. I found it really beneficial so far, and I'm that's gonna be one of the video series that I start to do on this channel, in terms of all the books that I read. I'm going to write. I've been writing down some notes on them anyway, but I'm going to create videos on those notes that I make, just so I can go over the notes again and then again speak out loud to just really reinforce what I'm learning. Adjusted the ATR on my script. I'll get into that in a little bit, and refined my daily process to having consistent daily work on EP back testing and data collection reviewing. So that was something that I had initially when I first started studying EPs. I was making sure that I was doing at least 2 hours of EP backtesting per day, and it got to the point where I felt like it wasn't really making the best use of my time. It felt like I could work on other things, and it's I guess I've come full circle now, in terms of just knowing that going through the motions, just really reinforcing that the memory, the pattern recognition is something that will be really beneficial, because in my pre-market process right now, I'm seeing potential setups, but I'm still not. I can't say that I've got 100% mind clarity in terms of knowing, okay, that's a setup that I'd like to take. When there's an A plus setup, I know, like, for sure I'm going to take that trade. But there's some setups that are just kind of seem to be on the fence quite a lot, and I know that there's room for improvement there in terms of knowing, okay, it's either a trade or it's not. There shouldn't be any second guessing in that. So that's something that I'm going to reintroduce to my daily schedule and daily routine. Just really ingrain that in my memory and subconscious. So what did I not do well? What could I have done better? I could have spent more time on reviewing EPs and just collecting my continuing my data collection. So the focus this week was YouTube and writing YouTube briefs, and I knew it was kind of going to be a slower week anyway, in terms of not really feeling like I was making too much progress on EPs and things. But in saying that, I definitely did. Just rewriting some of these first initial learnings that I went through allowed me to just jog my memory a little bit and remind myself of some of the things that weren't super fresh in my mind. So I definitely did make progress in just my EP understanding, but in terms of the real pattern recognition, I feel like that's the main thing to focus on. So what are my 3 key learning points for this week? So 1, behavior. I felt like I was the most consistent I've been in terms of my mindset and attitude towards my trading. Every moment of each working hour was focused with clear goals, and I felt really in the flow of everything. I did what I intended to do each day and approached each day with the sole purpose of improving at least 1% for that day. There were a couple of days throughout the week where I moved my morning reading session to the evening, as I chose to prioritize sleep, but I felt like that was the right thing to do, and it was a conscious decision as opposed to just feeling like I'll do it later. So sleep is one of the things that I've really tried to prioritize, in terms of one of the things that I learned from Lance Brightstein is that he said that not enough traders give credit to sleep, to good quality sleep, and it's something that should really be prioritized. And I notice when I don't sleep well, I'm not as sharp, I don't think as clearly, and my trading suffers as a result. So that's definitely something that I will continue to prioritize. And a couple of days throughout the week, I just didn't sleep that good, and I woke up, say, at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and I usually get up at 7, so I wanted to make sure that I'd get a couple extra hours sleep. And in doing that, I ended up staying in bed maybe like half an hour later than what I usually would. So my morning reading session was cut off a little bit short, but ultimately I felt better for doing that. So I wouldn't say that was a negative decision, or had a negative impact on my overall behavior for the week. My execution, I execute my trading system as intended and refrain from taking any subpar setups as per my system rules. There was a slight error in my automation script where the ATR was being calculated using a simple average as opposed to Wilder's smoothing method, which gives more weight to recent bars and is what I actually intended to use. As a result of this, my script entered into a position with too wide of a stop loss placement, but upon realizing this, I immediately closed the position without hesitation and updated the script. So there was just a small oversight, which is so I'm basically using an automation script for my 1-minute entries, and I hadn't come across this before, which is why it was still there. And basically a position that was on my watch list, potential setups to take for that day, the script entered into a position with just too wide of a stop loss, and when I realized it, I immediately closed it without hesitation. I didn't hesitate on that at all, and I think the position made like $4 or $5. Like it was negligible, and I wouldn't. I'm not counting that as a trade, any trade that I took for the week, because it shouldn't have been a trade. And I feel like I know that this is a big step forward in terms of just the way that I'm approaching my trading. If I know that I haven't done the right thing, I'll act on it immediately. No second guessing. So that comes on to decision making. There was one potential trade, CBRL, that I considered, but decided to opt out on based on the increased volatility in the market and the setup not being A plus. And that's something that I feel like I have improved on a lot in terms of really making sure that I'm taking quality setups as opposed to just taking anything. And it's kind of come full circle a little bit, because it got to the point where I was going too risk averse and I just wasn't taking anything. And then now I feel like I'm in a good place, because I'm making sure that the setups are quality, are high quality, but more importantly that they're setups that are worth taking based on the current market conditions as well, which is, I'll continue reading now. It ended up being the right call not taking this trade, as it would have got stopped out the following day, but I'm unsure as to whether or not this was the right thing to do um, as my main green light, red light criteria is based on the IWN's 10-day and 20-day moving averages, which were still holding up, although price was failing to hold the 20-day at the time. It definitely felt like the right thing to do, as I didn't really feel comfortable taking any setups, but it was a discretionary decision as opposed to a systematic one. So the 10-day being above the 20-day is basically Kulamagi's rule, and I'm just sticking by that because that's what makes the most sense to me. But at the same time, what I was seeing in the market with the increased volatility, with the fact that there was escalation with Iran US, the market had seen a clear shift in market structure. I just didn't feel comfortable taking a setup that I wasn't really 100% sure on. And I know that there's the setup, the strategy in itself, it has a 30% win rate, so you can never be sure on a setup. But at the same time, I want to know that I'm taking quality setups, and if there's things that are kind of lining up against that being a good decision, I want to make sure that I manage my risk accordingly, and don't just get too loose with things when there's clear signs to be a bit more cautious. So in regards to my biggest current constraint, I would say it's just with live experience in trading EPs and identifying suitable setups in real time. So, like I've already said, there's still been a bit of second guessing and not really knowing 100% sure whether it's a good setup or not. And I'm definitely there. I've definitely improved a lot, but there's still just a little bit more work to be done for sure, just to really not have to second guess anything and just know straight away. So, what is a viable path forward to fixing and working on this constraint? And it's basically just to continue back testing, forward testing, and reviewing high quality EP charts to really ingrain what I'm looking for into my memory and subconscious. And one of the things that I've started to do is to create an EP folder with real A plus setups, high quality setups, and I'm actually going to print that off and have a physical folder, so I can spend more time just looking through it away from the desk and write notes on those particular setups. And yeah, just really get that pattern recognition down and just know exactly what I'm looking for. So to finalize, next week's focus is to refine the AI prompts that I've been using, and test and compare the different results with different AIs. So I've only been using Grok so far, but I've seen that Claude can be quite beneficial as well in terms of the responses and the research that it provides. It apparently it's better. So I'll have a play around with that, and I've also got a subscription for ChatGPT, so I may as well test that out as well. To continue my direct EP focus work, so like I've already said, just continuing my back testing, data collection and reviewing, and forward testing if any setups show up, obviously. To continue working on my YouTube video briefs and use that as a way of reinforcing my learning and understanding. And then to continue reading and working on my psychology, because that is definitely something that I've realised that could do with some improvement. There's been times where I've realised, okay, my crypto baggage has definitely had an effect on my psychology. And when I mentioned it just now, when I was a bit too risk averse with the setup selection in regards to EPs, I realised that I was just a little bit afraid of losing, even though that I know that it's this setup's got a 30% win rate really at best. So that was something that I realised, and now I'm really putting some focused work on that. So yeah, continue reading and working on my psychology is a big one. So just to end quickly, the setup that I didn't take is this CBRL setup. And the reason that I decided not to take it, there were multiple reasons, but like I said, the fact that the IWM was, and all major indices were showing real structural weakness, I just didn't like the fact that I would be taking on risk in that environment. I know that every chart's individual, every stock's individual, but at the same time, Kulamagi gave back 60 million in profits because he didn't react to the market in time. So I whilst I'm still learning and understanding, I feel like it was the right thing to do. In hindsight, it was the right thing to do because this second day actually did stop out there, but obviously it's holding up pretty well. So it's hard to say. It was definitely a good setup in terms of market structure. This is a clear higher time frame support resistance level. It's a clear breakout. It's above the higher time frame moving averages now, just as the EP occurred. So there were a lot of things going for it, which is why I had a hard time deciding on whether or not to take it. One of the things that I didn't like was the fact that it rallied into the EP. I would have preferred to catch the EP here. The rally into it was only say 10%, which isn't huge, but at the same time it was just it just put me off it a little bit, and based on the other factors, I just decided not to take the trade. The weekly time frame, however, really painted a different story, because this prior week before this week into the EP makes it look like a really good setup to take. I mean, another week of this of a tight range would have been ideal, but yeah, the fact that it's a clear SR level and it's had a nice kind of rounded bottom, and the lower time frame moving averages, or on the weekly obviously it's a bit higher, but the lower moving averages, the 10-day and the 20, or the 10 week and the 20 week are starting to move up. There's a lot of signs to pointing towards this being actually a good setup to take. So I don't know if I've made the right call here or not. In hindsight, obviously it was, but at the same time, it is a solid market. It has solid market structure. It looks like a solid setup. So yeah, that's just being transparent and sharing my thought process. But that's it for this weekly review, and I'll continue my daily observations and my YouTube videos as I work through them.